Yes, today we're talking about spirit communication with loved ones who have transitioned. You're going to want to stick around because I'm going to take you on a deep dive with three modalities that have been around, one of them for 30 years and the other one more recently in the last few years, okay? But it's true that not only has spirit communication been happening from, let's say, centuries, okay, but it has been formalized in different practices that are actually taught and practiced throughout the world. And we're going to take a look at these. And I also want to kind of share with you why I believe through my research, why it hasn't really reached the mainstream. You would think it would have because what are the studies showing? Some crazy number of people, at least in the US, believe in the afterlife. I think the number is like 70% plus. Okay. So there's a lot of interest in the afterlife, in spirit communication, but understandably, there's a lot of skepticism. Like, first of all, you have to believe that the soul survives death, or even more, back up a bit and believe you have a soul. So if you don't even believe you have a soul, then how can there be an afterlife? How can you survive, transition? Like, notice I'm not using the word death. That's deliberate because let's just say algorithms don't like that word. There's just a bias against that word. So I'm just talking to you about spirit communication instead of instead of talking about that word. Okay, we're talking about people who've transitioned, crossed the other side, dropped their physical body, went to the other side, and they are not only still alive, they're still present. We can still communicate with them. A lot of other cultures very much experience this. This is not a strange thing to them, but to people in the Western world, yeah, it's a topic that makes people squeamish, especially those that are professionals. So here I'm going to get into it with you and talk about, again, like some of these modalities. One of them that was, well, both of them, the first two that I'm going to talk about, were founded by psychologists or people who were therapists, right? So they're not lay people. These are not necessarily mystics, although, maybe they are, but don't want to admit it. Okay. But let's talk about the first one that has been around the longest, literally since 1995 was when it was founded. And this was founded by Dr. Alan Botkin. Okay, and he's since retired, but he became known for his method called induced after death communication, or also known as IADC. So I'm going to refer to it as that, IADC. So Botkin discovered this accidentally. What are we going to call it? Accidentally on purpose, in 1995, when a combat veteran that he was treating for PTSD came to him, and through the method he was practicing, had a spontaneous visitation right there in his office. And the veteran said that he was communicating with a deceased Vietnamese girl that he had felt responsible for not being able to save during the Vietnam War. Like, he had found her face down on the ground, turned her over, and was shocked to see that, like, her whole abdomen was blown apart and she was dead. And he never got over that for years. I mean, even after he married, had a daughter of his own, he couldn't connect with that daughter. He was in deep grief and was isolating himself, staying in the basement of their home, and he just couldn't function. So because he was in the VA, he could go to the hospital there, and Botkin was practicing. So we had a session, had this experience with this girl who appeared to him as an adult now. Okay, she wasn't this little girl anymore, but he knew it was her. That was what was really amazing. He knew it was her. She was a young woman dressed beautifully, and she said to him that she was fine and there wasn't anything he could do, and that she had survived. So his grief was just healed right then, right then, because he could let go of that burden of grief and guilt that he felt. Now, I want to interject right now and say that the healing of grief, that kind of grief, through that initial first and only contact is understandable because he was carrying this burden of guilt, correct? So when he experienced her and he just knew that was her, even if his logical mind couldn't grasp it, he knew on a soul level that was her, he could let that go. Okay. So in his case, one experience was enough for him to move on. Clearly, he wasn't interested in continuing that relationship. That was not the reason for the session to begin with. It was just to resolve the grief that had been created from his guilt. Okay. Different story if you're talking about someone who wants to have this session to just connect with their loved one who's transitioned and wanting to know that they're okay, or maybe even more significantly, maybe they want to see if they can continue to connect with them. Okay. The challenge with IADC, first of all, is it's only trained licensed professionals. Like you have to be a doctor or a psychologist or a nurse, grief therapist, somebody that has, as I jokingly say, like letters after their name. So if you're a licensed practitioner, you are welcome to learn the method. And it's not something that you and I could learn ourselves to have that experience. So here I want to add like how I even came to know about IADC, because it's not in the mainstream. It's not something you can easily find information about. It's not like you can scroll social media and go, oh, look, what is this thing called IADC? They're not out there really, letting people know about it. And so the way I found IADC was, gosh, I guess at this point, 3 years ago, one night I was on my computer and my husband, who's on the other side and is always talking to me, he just said, oh, go look at this. And it was something about IADC that I found, and somebody was talking about it, I remember. And he said, you need to go look that up. So I did look it up and found there is a book on it. Let me show you it right here. Just give it to you. Just prove it to you. Okay, this is it. There's a cover, Dr. Botkin's book. Okay, and I got the copy. I ordered it. I don't think there's a Kindle version. I ordered it. Seriously, this is like one of the few books I've read cover to cover because my husband said you need to read this book. So I read the book and then got to the end where I found out that, wait, I can't train to do this because you have to be a licensed healthcare practitioner. And all Alan would say to me was, wait. I go, what? He said, just wait. I just want you to know about this. I want you to know. And I later came to realize that there was no accident this happening to Botkin. Okay, that spirit is always the one that's leading all of us. So it set it up for him to, quote, discover it accidentally and went forward because he developed his practice. He developed this method and trained people to do this. Okay. And in fact, after I read the book and I went looking on their directory on the IADC website, I don't know if it still exists, but there was a website and they had a directory of practitioners. So I looked because I was just curious, like, oh, is there somebody in Hawaii? I didn't think there would be because I didn't think there were that many, but lo and behold, I find that not only is there someone practicing in Honolulu, but they're just about a mile away from me, literally like a mile down the road from me. Not only that, this person was an old friend of mine that I'd lost touch with. And she was practicing it because she had gone forward and gotten her master's in psychology. So she was a practicing psychologist. And I'm sorry, Alan's saying she's a doctor now. I got that wrong. So she was a doctor of psychology. So I called her up and I said, hey, I want to have this session. She goes, okay, well, come on down. So I went to see her. And as I sat there talking to her, Alan kind of said to me, just talk to her, just share what you're going through. So I did. And I asked her about IEDC. And she said, well, I trained in it, but to be honest with you, I don't use it very often. And I said, well, why? Because I also noticed that on her website, she had no mention of it. But then neither had any of the other psychologists or practitioners on their website. I couldn't find any mention of IDC on their websites either, which I thought was really strange. And she said, well, I just don't put it out there because, to be quite honest, it doesn't always work. And she didn't feel comfortable, for that reason. I can understand, because if somebody's grieving and you're offering them something that seems to help them connect directly, and it costs money when it's through a psychologist. I think her fee, it was $250 or something, which is understandable because she's a licensed healthcare professional, correct? And then when I've researched it recently, the prices for IEDC, they now recommend at least 2 sessions, and the price can vary for those 2 sessions, anywhere between about $500 to $800, and some people need a 3rd session. So it's a lot of money. And she said, well, I just don't find that it always works. But if you want me to, lead you in it. And I heard Alan go, no, forget it. Let's just talk to, let's just talk to her. And we had a nice chat. And she said, that she was moving. So actually, wouldn't have even been able to talk to her about this. I wouldn't have even found her if I had waited, because like the next month she moved away. So I found that really fascinating. Like, why is it not, promoted by these practitioners? But then as I did more research, I realized, well, that they're going to feel very conflicted, because if you're let's put yourself in their shoes. So if you're a licensed therapist or psychologist with an active, thriving practice, are you going to advertise that you practice induced after-death communication? The name itself is problematic for them, because they're going to be met with some skepticism, and some of your current patients might balk at that and even question whether they should see you for conventional therapy. So the research I did kind of came back with that and said there are probably a lot of therapists that don't want to actively promote this and will quietly suggest it to a patient that maybe, it might be appropriate for them. So I thought, all right, great. Then that means that this modality, number one, is not going to become widespread, because you have to be a licensed healthcare professional. Right there, you're limiting the pool of potential therapists who could train and help people, correct? And then on top of that, not only that, those people who are trained feel conflicted about getting the word out. And so it's going to limit it even further. So that's how I came to understand, through the help of the research, that this is why it hasn't really gone anywhere. This was 30 years now, okay, 30 years. And at the time that Botkin's book came out, it was heralded as some groundbreaking therapy that would help people make contact, okay, which it can. It can. And my friend even said, she goes, it can. However, their purpose for it is grief resolution. It's not for continuing your relationship. So therefore, if somebody went to a therapist who practiced this and said, hey, yeah, I want to connect with my loved one and maybe continue to connect. Well, first of all, they'd have to keep coming back to the IADC practitioner, because they are not taught how to do this on their own. It's literally for the practitioner to facilitate, right? You're not taught how to do this. It's not, not something that they're going to help you with at all. Not only that, if you do decide to seek this out, which is fine, I mean, encourage you to do that if you're guided to do it, you might want to ask the practitioner, do they believe in the soul surviving death? Do they believe in the afterlife? Do they believe that their patients are actually connecting with someone who's in spirit? Most of them will probably tell you they're agnostic. They don't believe or disbelieve. They are probably going to choose to be in the middle, like they're going to choose to play it safe because they're concerned about, being, let's say, labeled as fringe, or, they don't want to risk their reputation. But if you're going to book a session, I encourage you to ask them, at least privately, just tell me that you believe that this is genuine, because it is more positioned as a form of therapy, but they're not really going to tell you conclusively that they believe you're actually making contact with a spirit that has survived their transition. Okay. And this has led to some people being very upset about it. Because can you imagine if you have this experience like this young man, this man that had this experience with a Vietnamese girl, which instantly healed him. And Botkin wasn't telling him that he made it up. I don't think Botkin even knew what the heck was going on. But if he had told him, well, that's not real, that's not can't possibly be her, you must be imagining it, then all that healing would have just broken apart, because you're not going to burst this person's bubble, because he could see that the man was completely transformed and his PTSD was gone. So I have a lot of compassion for people like Botkin who may have experienced something so profound, and yet because of their medical professional background are stuck between a rock and a hard place, because they can't come on the record and say, yeah, hey, I believe in the afterlife, and I believe that I can help people make contact with their loved one for the purpose of healing their guilt or their grief or their resentment or whatever it is that they want to resolve with their loved one who's transitioned. Like, they can't outwardly say that. And I think you all can understand why. Like, they can't. They're going to get in trouble. Look at the trouble Dr. Brian Weiss went through when he talked about past life regression, and he was ridiculed and basically kicked out. Okay, so only if someone like Botkin is willing to leave his profession to pursue this, but then now you're labeled again that you're crazy, or you're on the fringe, or you're no longer have your professional certification to stand behind. But this is what happens to a lot of people who are professionals and who wade into these waters, and they find that they have to kind of pull back. In fact, I believe I heard somewhere, I couldn't get it conclusively proven, but I remember reading somewhere somebody saying, and again, I'm just saying this, what I heard somebody say, that Botkin came to have a bit of regret naming it after death communication, because, and induced on top of that, induced after death communication, because it sounds like they're conjuring spirits, right? So it actually gave the modality a little more difficulty getting taken seriously because of the name that he chose for it. So, I was researching that too. Like, why hasn't this taken off? Like, why isn't this bigger than it should be based on what the book conveys, which I know was real and legit, right? So that's IADC. That is still practiced right now. You can find practitioners doing this. It used to be that you had to go in person. That was Botkin's rule. That was in the book, okay, that you have to go in person to the facilitator. Well, all that has changed, and now you can have a session on Zoom. Maybe, I don't know when that changed. Maybe it was because of the pandemic and they realized, wait, our practitioners can't work with anybody unless it's on camera. So now you can have a session on Zoom. But I don't think the price has changed. I think it's still expensive. I've heard of several people. Personally, I've heard of people that paid a lot of money to go in person. One person spent thousands of dollars traveling from London to I can't forget, someplace in, I don't know, Spain or some other part of Europe, to have a session with somebody who was quite well known, and only to find that they couldn't connect. And this person eventually had a session with the next modality that I'm going to share with you, that I know personally a lot about because I was trained in it. So I'm going to talk about this in just a second. But this woman who failed to have a session with IEDC after spending, I think it was like $5,000, like everything included, had a session in this next modality successfully. Okay, and this next modality, again, that I have personal experience in, is loving heart connections. It's founded by another professional, Dr. Jane Bisler. And the way I heard about loving heart connections is actually related to how I heard about IEDC, because then I understood why my husband said, wait, because about maybe a year later, maybe less than a year later, I was again on my computer. This was late at night. I'm looking at my computer in bed. It was like, I know it was 10:30. I know it was late. And I'm looking at YouTube, and I see this video come up, and it was of Dr. Bisler being interviewed. Okay. And I felt my husband going, watch this video. I go, okay, I'm watching it. But it's 10:30. So I'm hearing her talking about loving heart connections. This was in October of 2021. And she's talking about loving heart connections, LHC for short, and how she's going to be teaching her first workshop with professionals. These are just professionals, not lay people. She was teaching her first workshop and she was promoting it. I was watching this in January of the 2022. And I got all excited. I thought, this sounds like way better, very similar to IEDC. But she was teaching people how to make contact directly themselves without going through a practitioner to have to do it every time, right? She was teaching them, and she called it like a one-time thing, like one and done is how she used to say. She used to like to say one and done. You have a session with a loving heart connections practitioner and you're done, because they teach you how to make contact, right? Sounds good to me, but I thought, wait, but she's only teaching professionals again, right? And I'm not. So I fall asleep. Literally, this is playing on my computer, and I fall asleep, and she's still talking. All of a sudden, I feel this nudge on this side. Alan's usually talking on this side, and I woke up only to hear her say, at that exact moment, but I am going to teach another workshop for lay people, like healers, like Reiki healers and energy healers. And Alan goes, that's you, because I'm a Reiki master teacher. So I thought, oh, okay, I can take the next training, right? So that was like, I don't know, like I said, January 31st, I think, whatever the day was. And that night, I sent a message to Jane and I said, hey, I hear you're going to be teaching a workshop for people like me. I'm a Reiki practitioner, Reiki master, and I'm interested, right? So it took a few days for her to get back to me, but she did. And she said, yeah, absolutely. Like you qualify. And I so happened to have a session open up, because part of the requirement for this is that you've had a loving heart connection session, which completely makes sense. So I'm normally booked up solid, but somebody just this morning canceled. They canceled their appointment. So would you like to take it? So I said, absolutely. And what day is it? And she told me, oh, it's going to be later in a few weeks from now, several weeks from now, but February 22nd, which is well in time before the workshop, which is in March. Well, February 22nd, 2022, that's my father's birthday, who's on the other side. And I knew that this was all like arranged. I knew it was all like a setup. So I said, sign me up. I'll pay immediately for your session, and I'll pay for the training. Okay. So that was all like set up or ready to go. And I knew that this was something I was being guided to learn, because this is how the other side always works in my life. And it works in everyone's life this way. If you don't realize it yet, it's time for you to pay attention. Okay, because things are always happening as an orchestration by your higher self. So I went forward and had the session with Jane. It was, I would say, to me, it wasn't that remarkable, only because I already have a connection with my husband. But I knew it was real, and I could see the process was very powerful. Okay. So I was very enthusiastic about it, and even told one of my friends who heard about me taking this, and she was interested in taking it along with me. And so she signed up. She had a session too. She signed up, and we were all ready to go for the training in March. So we come and take this training. It's a 2-day training, like all day, like from, I think it was 9 in the morning Eastern time till like 4 in the afternoon Eastern time. For me, that meant at the time this was, I had to wake up at 3 in the morning or something to take class. But so it was really tough, but I did it. It was probably the hardest physical tackling thing, to wake up and be present and practice on this for 2 days straight. But I did that. And then I started practicing immediately. I mean, literally that week after I started practicing loving heart connections. Okay. So let me explain how it works, because Jane uses her method that's copyrighted, uses bilateral stimulation. Those of you familiar with things like EMDR, which by the way, IADC uses EMDR also. And so in those sessions, and EMDR, for those who don't know, stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. That's a mouthful. That's like, I don't like to say that word all the time. EMDR. It's rather, if you research it, it's a little bit controversial still, EMDR. I'm not sure why it's so controversial. That's another reason why IEDC kind of struggled, because it's attached to EMDR. But then so is loving heart connections, in a sense, because it involves bilateral stimulation. Like when you alternate the right and left side of the body, even like when you're walking, did you know that when you walk and you're going left, right, correct? Where you're actually, there's things going on in your brain, there's things going on, your body actually relaxes. You may not have known that. That's why if you're stressed out and you go for a walk, even if it's just 5-10 minutes, your body starts to drop its cortisol levels and you enter a state of relaxation. So this similar thing. So if you use your eye going back and forth, or you tap on your body back and forth, your body gets relaxed, right? Now, but that's copyrighted with Jane. So somebody like me learning loving heart connections, I can't like take that technical method and go apply it. But I practice it her way, using a metronome, using the body tapping, right? And I worked with her method, well over 100 people. Within, I'd say about estimate, I don't know, a couple of months, because I have clients already. So I worked with a lot of people. And out of the people I worked with, I'd say only of those people, only I think about 3 people were unsuccessful. With IADC, their success rate is 70%. So that means 30% of the people are unsuccessful. My rate was probably closer to 90 or even 95% when you look at the numbers. And I only had 3 people, and that was only because one person was in a lot of fear about the afterlife, which shuts down your contact. The other person just couldn't handle the bilateral stimulation. They just found it irritating. And the third person was trying too hard. I mean, really trying too hard. She couldn't not try so hard. So she was getting in her own way. And I told her, I said, I could help her get that under control, but she never really came back to deal with that. So, but generally speaking, everybody made contact with some spirit on the other side. Sometimes it was surprising who they contacted, because it might not have been initially the person they had wanted to contact, but usually they did connect with the loved one that they wanted to. Quite often it was really interesting. We had animals show up, like pets that had passed would show up to cut, usually in the beginning, almost like they were coming in first to say hi, and then the loved one would come in after. That was always fun because it was confirmation to both of us that, we're not making this up, because the loved one was the one that probably sent the pet to their partner in the body to say, yeah, I'm coming later, but here, you need to see Fluffy first, right? So when that happens, I love it again, because you're not making it up. Now, with Loving Heart Connections, as successful as that has been, and probably still is, and for the record, by the way, that hasn't grown much either. I could only find 12 practitioners listed on their website, which is a bit disappointing because it's been around again since 2021. And I was one of the group of practitioners, right? So anyway, when you look at all that, likewise, only 12 practitioners, Bisler is retired, so is Botkin. That makes a big difference. The founder of the modality is not actively engaged, meaning, and especially if they're not, say, on social media, they don't have a YouTube channel, they're not posting anywhere. How's anybody going to hear about this? Dr. Bisler turned her practice over to one of her practitioners who runs it. But from what I understand, there was only one class taught January of this year. Nothing has happened since then. And I couldn't find any record of any classes that were taught last year. So I guess then the numbers of 12 practitioners kind of makes sense. The challenge I found working in Loving Heart Connections, and I was doing my best to be very supportive of Dr. Bisler and her mission, because I believed in it and I saw people making contact. But I said to her, these people need more support, because it's not enough to have that one-time connection. Because her attitude was, well, I'm giving them the method and they have enough to just practice. But me being a spiritual teacher, I understood, maybe more than either Botkin or Bisler, that you're talking about changing people's belief system at its core. This is not like teaching somebody how to play the piano. And even when you play the piano, don't you need to keep taking lessons and need a mentor? I mean, this is something that's life altering. And some of these people need to go back and revisit their beliefs, because they're going to hit them. This is what I discovered after, at this point now, whatever, it's like 3 years of teaching my method, and then coaching people in continuing their relationships, is that people have layers of beliefs that they have to clear, because that's just how we're wired. This is not a simple thing. But Dr. Bisler, I think, wanted it to be simple, because she was already getting ready to retire, and now she has. And so she didn't see this as something that she wanted to really put a lot of energy behind. Now, when I asked her in class, you can't find this anywhere online because I researched it, but I know because I was in class and I asked her, I said, where did this even come from? How did you even come up with this idea? Right? And we know with Botkin, it was one combat soldier who saw that Vietnamese girl, and that set everything off. Okay. So I asked Dr. Bisler, what made you even come up with Loving Heart Connection? She said that it was spirit, like the other side, kept bugging her to do this. Okay. So she started with patients, because she's been a grief therapist. And so she started working with patients and helped them make contact. And only then, when I met her, was she taking it on a broader level. Her goal, she said at the time, was to teach more practitioners, and to eventually teach teachers, right? So in other words, to teach a whole bunch of practitioners, teach some of them to be teachers of the method, so they could go out and teach more people. Because really, this is what I know to be true. This is how, if you want any modality, healing modality like this, if you want it to really spread and impact the world, you have to train as many teachers to teach practitioners. Why do you think Reiki is probably the healing modality that is most known throughout the world? Because it was initially, sure, it was only taught to a small number of people. They charge a lot of money. It was really just to make the healing modality seem special. And, we can argue about the moral ramifications of that, but who cares at this point? We just know that it brought it to the world, right? So brought it to the world, and people were trained in Reiki and then trained to be teachers of Reiki. And now Reiki is the modality that has many different versions, many different iterations. There's no Reiki board of, professionals that they're going to come after you if you decide you want to create your own version or flavor of Reiki. None of that exists. So that means people can go out there and make it their own, which is what I've done, and I'm sure many others have done. But with something like Loving Heart Connections or IADC, they're holding tightly on the reins of control. And in fact, Jane is very much lawyered up, literally, to take anybody to task who tries to copy her modality. You'll be sued. You can't use the name. And certainly she doesn't seem to be teaching teachers to take this modality further. Right? So what I saw in my practice of it and my frustration in helping you getting it out, because I said, well, you at least need to have a Facebook group where you show up and you maybe answer questions once a week or once a month, like, how are you building this out? Because I've been studying marketing for the past 8 years just to build my own practice. So I understand what's required, but she had no interest in it. She told me, well, I do have a Facebook group and it's there for anybody who's had a session with me. I said, yeah, Jane, but you never post in there. She goes, well, no, I don't intend to. That's for the people to connect with each other. And I said to her, but you don't seem to understand. People who are grieving, they're shy, they're quiet, they're traumatized. Like, they're not going to go on a Facebook group and just start chatting with strangers and asking questions and sharing their story. I said, that's not how it works. I mean, I knew that because I'd run Facebook groups for like 10 years at that point. And she said, well, I'm not interested in that. And so I was in that Facebook group for maybe, I don't know, a month, and they said, this isn't going anywhere. I answer questions and nobody reads it anyway because there's hardly anybody here. And I thought, okay, this modality isn't going to go anywhere. And Alan even told me at one point, he goes, this isn't going to grow. It's going to eventually die out. But that's not why you took it. And I said, well, why did I learn this? Well, as it turned out, I had a lot of success doing these sessions, but it was mainly because, I don't mean me, I'd say 50% because Alan was involved. And I didn't fully understand that. But people started reporting, they started giving me testimonials that they saw Alan in their session. One client said she met her sister in the session and saw Alan with her sister in this Paris bistro cafe, and she knew that was Alan with her sister. And she said it was great because he's helping me connect with my sister. So she had a powerful experience. Knew Alan was supporting her sister to connect with her, right? But when I shared this testimonial with Jane, she was so angry. You're not supposed to do mediumship in these sessions. That is a rule. I said, wait, you told me, I'm getting back to what I originally wanted to tell you, how she founded it, right? You told me that Spirit gave you this method, and Spirit facilitates the method, okay, from the other side, meaning that spirit guides, other spirit beings are helping the practitioner and the person they're working with to connect, okay? I said, isn't Alan a spirit? Like, what's the difference? And she wouldn't have any of that. She said, no. I said, no mediumship. You're practicing mediumship. I said, I'm not. I'm not even a medium. I'm a channel. And I can do mediumship, but I don't practice it. Alan was a practicing medium, not me. I talk to spirits. I talk to angels and guides. And so I said, I'm not giving messages, which is what a medium does. They convey messages. I'm teaching people how to connect because that is my gift. That is my passion, not giving a message from a spirit. And she said, I don't care. I don't like it. You need to stop it now. And I said, but I can't. My agreement with Alan is that he helps me in all my work with the spirit world. And so we agreed that I just had to leave. But she was quite upset with me. And I understood. I said, okay. So Alan said, then you need to form your own modality. And I go, well, how am I going to induce that relaxed state? And then he reminded me of the affirmation that my own spirit guides had given me when I had been in had a panic attack while I was in the dentist's office, sitting in the chair, getting, I think it was some fillings removed or something. And you know how that is. They have to put a rubber dam in your mouth, right, to catch the fillings because, of course, that's toxic. So they put that dam in my mouth. And believe me, I had that happen before. This wasn't the first time. So I didn't think I was going to have any reaction. But for some reason, all of a sudden, I start feeling this upswell of anxiety, and it was strong, and I couldn't control it. Anyone who's had a panic attack understands that. It's not like you can just think your way out of it and just go, oh, I don't want this. Okay. It was just coming, and I could feel this intensity building, and I was getting ready to start pulling everything out of my mouth and screaming, which I didn't want to do. And I heard my guide say, just repeat this. I am one with all that is. I am one with all that is. And I heard the words in my mind, and I repeated it to myself along with the words I heard. I kept repeating it. I am one with all that is. And within 30 seconds, I'd gone from literally almost like a level 10 of like I was ready to scream and jump out of my skin. And I went down to 5. And within a minute, I was pretty much down to 1. All right. So that stayed with me. But it wasn't until Alan pointed out, he said, you're going to use that affirmation because it will put a person into the state of relaxation that they need to be in to make contact, because that is all that is required. I want to say that again. This is not some mystical, magical thing. You just need to be in a relaxed state to be able to, right, like drop that anxiety, drop your chattering mind, just be relaxed. And the other side, if they're willing, and they usually are, and you're receptive, they can come through. Okay, so I said, all right. And he says, other than that, he goes, you know how to guide them, get them to relax, get them to start seeing, feeling, hearing, and sensing. And I said, right. He says, you just do what you already know how to do. Okay. And I'll still work on the other side with their loved one to help them come through. Okay. So I said, all right, you're going to do what you've been doing all this time with Loving Heart Connections. He goes, right. So I'm just helping as I've always helped, but now you're not constrained. You're not breaking her rule. Do you understand the path you took? I guided you to learn about IEDC to see that this actually does work, and it's spirit-led, because spirit was the one who brought it to Botkin. As spirit brings any innovation or invention to anybody in a body, where do you think these things come from, people? It's not from the physical mind. Botkin couldn't just make this up out of his own. He couldn't. It was given to him by Spirit because Spirit knew that he would take it and do something with it. And it doesn't matter that it didn't get out to the world. It reached the people it needed to reach. It certainly reached me. It helped the people that it could help. And don't worry about it. Like, it always can go to another level, which it has. Interestingly, Dr. Bisler, when she heard that Botkin was writing his book and she was already doing her method, she reached out to him and said, "Hey, I hear that you're doing something similar to me." Well, he didn't want to have anything to do with her. She wanted to kind of like talk stories, share notes, like say, "Hey, what have you learned?" And he said, "No, you just have to wait for my book." She didn't have any disparaging thing to say about him. She just said, "Well, that's interesting." So she never talked to him. He wasn't interested in that. She was kind of at the same time having her own experiences. This was like years later, more like 2008, she came up with a book. But in any case, her timing was a bit after his, but he didn't want to share anything about what he had learned, which I found really sad. But in any case, all these methods serve their usefulness until the next level happens, right? So we came out with our Bridge to Heaven method. And I believe at this point, over 200, I've lost count, maybe 200, 250 people that I worked with since 2022, 2023. I don't do it so much anymore because I'm focused a lot more on teaching. I do want to teach practitioners of our method. That's our next level, to spread this, because I don't want it to end with me, but I'm not there yet. And in order to qualify for me to even teach you that method, you'd have to have a session, obviously. And in my case, I'm going to provide support for my practitioners because that was very lacking for Loving Heart Connections practitioners like myself, because there was no real support. It was for a little bit, for a few months. We had meetings with Dr. Bisler, but then that ended. And I don't think any of the people that trained with me, I think only one person is still practicing. A lot of them they fell by the wayside. So there was no support. There was no, because she didn't want to be part of any group where we always, could reach out to her or anybody. So that's another reason why a method will just die out, because you have to bring it to a certain level and train enough people that are really skilled in it for it to go on without you. So my goal is for what I'm doing to go on without me, but that means, I have to really push this out here. So all of this I'm sharing with you, I want you to understand why this whole topic is hard to get out to the world. And so therefore, if you're interested in it, please like, share, subscribe, do whatever, because that's the only way people are going to find out. Because the algorithms on the platforms just do not really like this topic. It's too, in their view, fringe. I totally understand it. I'll be completely honest with you. Excuse me. Somebody comes up to me and says, "Hi, I'm a psychic medium." I usually take 10 steps back. Seriously. Because I've been in this field for 38 years, and I would say most of the mediums and psychics I've met are very distorted people. Now, if you're one of them, I apologize if you're not in that category. That's just been my experience. So telling me, "Hey, I'm a medium," doesn't you win points with me, okay? It's like, I want to know what kind of person you are. That is more important to me. Or how evolved are you as a person, as an individual? How healed are you as a being? Okay, that is the most critical thing. So I know that right now we're live here, and I've got some of our students and our clients. We have people who've had sessions with us, and I asked some of them to share their experiences if they felt like it, and I could share that here. So if any of them have shared that, I can't scroll through the whole feed and pull it out, but if you want to post it again, or let me go back and look. But just know that as the difference between the Bridge to Heaven sessions we do and why I have our program Be Your Own Medium is because I saw with Loving Heart Connections, even if I had success with all these people, that they really need to learn more. This is just the first step. You know, it's not going to always heal somebody's grief unless it's somebody that felt guilt about how the person passed, like the soldier and the Vietnamese girl. You know, now, yeah, he could let go his guilt. But if somebody has other questions, other confusion about their loved one, and if they're experiencing contact, which was, I was shocked to find that people were having contact like I was. I thought that, well, maybe I'm having contact because Alan's a medium. And then he started laughing at me, going, "What are you talking about? There are a lot of people having contact, but they don't have anywhere to go because nobody's out here talking about it. Nobody's out here showing that there are methods of direct spirit communication," right? He says, that's the problem. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. Okay, so that it's a real thing. Now, here I'm going to share Susan, who's in our group. She's saying, "The Bridge to Heaven is the most wonderful gift during our session. It was truly amazing to go through I know she means meditation with Pam, and so vividly meet my beautiful husband, where I could feel, and feel him." Now, Susan's in our program, and I've interviewed Susan, by the way. So if you guys are curious about her story, look on her channel. Her story is here about how her husband passed and immediately started connecting with her, and how she will say to you and everybody that he led her to our program. In fact, I would say a good 80% at least of people who join our program have said to me, "Well, I knew I was guided here. Like, I don't even know how your channel popped up on my feed, or I don't know how I found your book. And then I read your book and I realized, oh, she's having experiences I'm having," right? So I know that this is happening to scores of people who are being dismissed, are being told that, well, that's all nice, but it's in your mind, and you'll get over it, and you need to let them move on. You can't continue your connection. So this is really challenging too. Not only do you have professionals that are trained in things like IEDC, right, who aren't sure that they can really talk openly and say there is an afterlife because it's going to get them in trouble. They're afraid. But you have mediums telling people that you need to let their loved ones go. You have to move on. Everyone is telling people who are grieving, who are having these undeniable connections, that their loved ones are initiating, okay? They're telling them you need to let them go, when that's not true. It's not true, especially if you're having experiences that you did not solicit, you did not try to make happen. It just starts happening to you. This is how you know you are not having a fantasy. Okay. I've had too many people that I've met said that they were caught completely by surprise. Some of them were deeply religious, didn't believe in the afterlife, and yet they're having these experiences. Why do you think that is? It's because it's real. That's why. So if it's real and the loved one is actually there, and I would say in these cases, pretty much you can bet that there's been a soul agreement that they would have the connection after they transition. Therefore, if you have the soul agreement, even if the person doesn't believe in the afterlife, guess what? The soul agreement takes precedence, because that means that's part of your destiny. I want you to hear that. It's your destiny. It's not that your physical mind can reject it outright. Okay, because if it's your destiny, if you made the soul agreement, all right, when you transition, we're going to continue, then you're going to have contact, even if you don't believe in it, logically, consciously, because the soul level is what matters. You still have free will to reject it, right? Because you can say, okay, I changed my mind, I don't want to do this, but you're still going to have the contact happening initially. It just may mean that you're not going to develop it further because you're rejecting it. You're saying, well, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I'm afraid now. Okay, then you have to work through your fear. Okay, but you are going to have the experience regardless. Okay, you can't like get away from it. I'm just reading like people's comments in the chats. Can't kind of keep up with it. Yeah, Lisa's saying, by the way, if all that is doesn't resonate you can substitute God or the universe. You can use whatever term you want to say, like I am one with the universe, I am one with source, I am one with Allah, I am one with Jesus. Like you can use whatever your name is for the infinite, for consciousness, which is, in my definition, all that is just consciousness, collective consciousness. Okay. I'm just scrolling here through you guys' messages to see anybody want to share their story, because I can't go through all of your comments in the last 1 hour. So if there's anybody want to share their story, share it now and I'll post it here. Or we will just let that go. Because like I said, I can't go back and scan everybody's stories. So anybody want to share their story here? Anybody here in our group? Listen up, people. I know, but I can't go and look for your stories. It has to be right here in the feed right now. So copy it and paste it if you can. So yeah, I can't be going back over 1 hour's worth of posts. So anyway, if you don't want to share, that's fine. But Loving Heart Connections and IADC still exists. You can find practitioners. Like I said, IADC is going to be more for grief resolution and a little bit more problematic. The Loving Heart Connections, there's only 12 people, though. That's a little problematic. They will affirm that you are connecting with someone in the spirit world. Okay. So, and so there, with those people, you're safer, because Jane definitely believes that, you can connect with loved ones. But but the IDC, that's going to be problematic. I've heard people kind of say they felt they enjoyed the session, but weren't sure, after that. It depends what your purpose is, but just think of it that way, right? Like IDC is more in a clinic, like with a clinician, and Loving Heart Connections, it can be a layperson, like a healer, energy healer, or it could be a clinician. Our session, we guide you to connect, and you don't have to have any background in anything. You don't have to do anything special, but just like show up. Like we do it online, we do it on Zoom. Okay, I'm going to share Danny's story. In my favorite Bridge to Heaven's experience, I went through a door to meet Rich. He was already with me before I got to the door. I stepped out into a midnight forest, and he invited me to receive a gift from him. Yeah, I kind of remember that. Yeah, that was really special. So those are kind of experiences people have. And I want to emphasize that, okay, she's saying, he handed me a large misshapen crystal. Oh yeah, I remember that, Danny. I was perplexed then as we began walking through the forest. I realized I used to call him my diamond in the rough, and he gave me his heart as a large rough diamond. That's very, very sweet. That's beautiful. Right. So they come through, and people have these experiences. I want to explain. Sometimes it's visual. Sometimes they just feel like they're there. I've had people say they just knew their loved one was there. They just felt their presence. All of those are actual connections, with spirits across the veil. It's not always going to be visual. So if you're not like a visual person, you say, I don't see things in my mind's eye, don't worry about it. I've had people have all kinds of experiences where they just felt their energy so intensely, or they felt all this love so strongly. It's very individual. Okay, everyone's different, and understand that this is something, because we teach you how to practice it, and you can do it over and over. And I do know that some of our students that learned this from us and did practice it over and over had greater success. Okay. So I don't know who this is saying. It was pretty successful considering my Zoom didn't work, but I did see Michael. All right. That's great. That's great. Yeah, that just proves, right? Like you don't have to have everything working, functioning perfectly to know that you had contact. This is what I encourage you to understand, that you're looking for like this tangible evidence, and we discount like what we feel. Like, do we feel their presence? Because you really cannot fake that. I promise you, because I've had people say that they honestly didn't feel anything, but maybe they heard something, right? But if you, whatever your senses are, whether you feel them like viscerally, like physically, like energy or presence, or you feel emotion come up within you, or you hear like words, you hear some like as if someone's talking, or it may sound like you're talking to yourself, but you know that you're not talking to yourself. Okay, all that is still spirit communication. Okay, so here's Donna. The first time we did the Bridge to Heaven with Pam and Ellen was in July of 2023. Although I was still deep in grief at the time, I remember it vividly. Pam led us into meditation using I'm One with All That Is. Around me, I guess you're saying Les was around you and holding me, kissed me. I felt coolness all around me. I became emotional. I knew Les's touch. I knew it was him. The experience was truly out of this world. And I know that thanks, Donna. And then from that point on, I completely believe that Les was and is with me always. That was the turning point for me. From then on, we became stronger together. And yes, Les is always telling me to stay in the now, for this is where I will find him. This is where we are together eternally. That is so true. And I remember I've done many sessions with Les and Donna, and Les was always saying, stay in the now. That's the other thing. Like, they're right here, right now. And so if we start being sad about the past, that means we're thinking of the past, correct? And while we don't want to let go of our memories, our happy memories, when you're newly grieving, if that's you and you're watching this now, I suggest you kind of just store those memories for a time and don't dwell on it much if it makes you feel sad, okay? Because then what's happening is you're not being in the present, which, by the way, is all that we have is now. And it's where your loved one is right now, is right here. So when you go back in the past and are sad, okay, very different from going back to visit a memory and feeling happy about it, because that's different. But if you're going back and feeling sadness, because the reason you would feel sad if you're doing that is because you're thinking a thought on some level that, oh, that's over now, or you're not with me anymore, and you're kind of dwelling on loss instead of that they're present. Okay, so when you do that, then you're just, in a way, you're disconnecting from them here, because you can't really be in two places. You can't be dwelling and be aware of the past and be fully here. I challenge you to do that. You can't be in those two places, not while you're in a body. Maybe when you're on the other side you can, but not when you're in a body. So anytime you dissociate like that and you pull your awareness to the past or even the future, then you're not here in the now, and you will miss whatever they're trying to tell you or share with you or communicate with you in the now. This is why you may have heard that saying, all your power is in the now. Even Eckhart Tolle in his book, The Power of Now. What does that mean? It's mean everything that you really desire and you want, all your power is here. So when you go back in the past and you're newly grieving, you're only going to feel sadder because you're looking for them and they're not there. They're here. So you're going to feel, the pain you feel is the gap. Like, oh, I'm pulling myself away from them because they're here and I'm going back there. You see what I mean? So it's all literally, it's like spiritual logistics. It's like, well, if I pull away from them and dwell in the past, which is gone, and they're here, then of course I feel a sense of separation. Of course I feel a sense of disconnection. even though I cannot really be disconnected, but I feel it because my mind is creating the disconnection. My mind is so powerful that it can generate that feeling of separation, which is not what you want. That's not going to heal your grief. So if you want to connect, you need to be more focused in the now. And you also need to understand that your loved one is doing everything they can to connect with you. But here's the other thing that's really important for you to hold in mind, okay? And it may be hard if you're newly grieving, because all you want more than anything in the world is to hear them again, see them again, feel them again, or maybe just know that they're okay, which I totally understand. But here's the other thing you need to really grasp, especially if you want to continue this relationship, which you can do. I've done this for like 5 years now, and I've got people in my group of doing it for a couple of years now. Okay, so if one person can do something, others can do it too. But here's what I know to be true after 5 years of this journey. Okay. This is not all about just reuniting with someone we love. That's maybe the catalyst. This is what opens the door to our spiritual awakening, because that's the gift, and that sounds weird, that's the gift in someone's transition, in someone leaving this world, is that it gets us started on a spiritual journey of awakening if we're not already on it, or at least it can. Not everybody will take up the invitation. Some people will just decide that that's it, and they're just going to grieve for the rest of their life because they just cannot accept the idea that life goes on, and that's fine. They're not ready for it. But if you're ready for it, if it resonates with you, if you feel like it's calling you, even if you don't understand it completely, then it's probably part of your soul plan. Or you would be like most of the people and go, oh, this is ridiculous, and just like leave, right? And never go further, and therefore for many people, struggle with grief. Okay, but if you understand, this can lead to me exploring the nature of reality, who I really am as a soul. Am I living my authentic life as my true self? Do I really even know myself? If you understand that is the bigger picture, it's not just about connecting with them, experiencing them, seeing them, feeling them, hearing them, like I do with my husband. It's not just about that. It's about you becoming the highest, truest version of you, right? If you understand that, then you will understand why this is not a one-time thing, this is not going to happen in one workshop or even a couple of workshops. It's something that becomes your way of life, because it is the spiritual path of ascension, nothing less than that, right? So that's why it's not enough to even have astonishing experiences with someone in spirit, where you even see them physically or hear them like out here, like in their voice. Okay. You can have all of that and still be inauthentic, still be distorted in yourself emotionally, still be unhappy, frustrated, lonely, angry, resentful. You could still be miserable, even with the contact. I know that sounds hard to believe for people who are searching for this, who are yearning for this, who think, wait, if I could see my husband or my child or my sister or my brother, whoever, like I would be thrilled, like nothing could make me happier. Trust me, that's not the be all and end all, because it's about you. It's about you becoming whole. They are already whole because they dropped their body and they transitioned. You, my friend, now you are on a path of wholeness, of becoming, again, more your true self. So do not equate the astonishing connection or being able to have your full psychic senses engaged with you actually living happily ever after through the veil. Because I've seen that with people in the early days, especially, that had astonishing connection, and they were extremely distorted, some more than others. because they hadn't worked on themselves, because they were still like unhappy and didn't even love themselves. Okay. So I don't want that for you. If that's what you're willing to settle for, then fine. Like, how I have no control over that. But I know that you're here with us, if you're in our program especially, that you can have it all, that you can be the highest version of you, spiritually evolved to the highest level that you can, and have this astonishing relationship across the veil. But it takes like commitment, persistence, dedication. You have to be willing to learn and unlearn. Most of all, you have to be willing to become, and I mean this literally, you are going to need to become a different person. And some people, they just freak out when I say that, because they go, what are you talking about? Like, I don't want to be a different person. I like my comfort zone. Or I'm scared of change. Or what do you mean? Like I thought this is who I am. Well, I have not seen anybody go through this journey that didn't change some part of themselves. Even if it was just a tiny part. And some of them really blasted through their limiting beliefs. I know like Donna is one of them that we just shared her story with Les, because I know Donna is from the get-go, because I worked with her so much, that she and Les were just determined to continue their relationship, and Donna was determined to break through her fears. And by the way, I interviewed them too on my channel, so go look for their interview. So she was willing to break through her fears and anxieties and insecurities. And I've seen, probably of anybody I've worked with, I've seen Donna change the most. Okay. But she's worked for it, and Les is behind her all the way. And I know has nudged her to push past her fears, but she's willing to do the hard things. And that's what's required. Okay. So I don't want to dissuade anybody from joining our program, but I want to be clear that this is the path less traveled, and it's not for everybody. If it was for everybody, then everybody would be doing it. It's for the people. This is just my opinion. It's more for the people who probably made the soul agreement that they would continue their relationship across the veil. And those people will find it within themselves to persist and continue and be patient and work on clearing their limiting beliefs and become the new higher version of themselves. Do you understand? That's why I'm saying you're going to have to change, because how can you be the highest version of yourself if you're not that now? You'd have to change. You'd have to be that person. And believe me, that person is not the you at the beginning of this journey. It's not the you with your insecurities or self-loathing or self-hatred or fear that paralyzes you from doing anything new or learning. Okay. You have to be willing to change. It's okay if you don't want to. Nobody says you have to. You will change once you drop your body and leave this world. We're just suggesting, hey, you might want to do it now and have a happier journey for the rest of your days, because you can. So in closing, I just want to kind of say that, it's possible for you to have this, but you got to be, again, just willing to embrace the unknown. Okay. So if you're still hanging in there with me, we're going to guide you to connect with your loved one. Are you ready? Ready or not, here we go. We're going to do one of our Bridge to Heaven sessions that we do in our program. And every time we do it, it's at a new level, because I'm always changing. You're always changing. Whenever we're doing something in the now, it's always at the next level. So hang in there with me. This is going to be short. If you are happy with this, then you can rewatch it and you can just keep going, connecting while turning everything off. Okay. You don't have to watch, the whole video again, come back to it. We're at the mark of about over an hour and 15 minutes in, but you can go back to this and rewatch it and just stay in the field, because we're going to open this connection between this world and the next. Okay, Alan's going to help me do this with you. And we're going to bring you and your loved one together. All we ask you to do is suspend your disbelief, to just be open to experiencing, let go of any stress, fear, negativity you may be carrying. You'd be surprised how all you need to do is say, I'm willing to let this go. I'm willing to open up to the other side. Okay, because what you say is created. What you say goes. What you say to the universe, it takes it literally, whatever you say. So that's why be careful what you say. All right, so I'd like you to take a deep breath in. Thanks, Danny, for your kind words about the membership. We do immerse everybody in these energies as often as we can. They are real because the spirit world is the real world, people. Okay. You don't have to fully believe. You just need to be willing to suspend your disbelief and be open to experiencing in the now. Okay. So close your eyes if you haven't done so already. We're going to lead you through our affirmation. I am one with all that is. I am one with all that is. I am one with all that is. That's our affirmation. I'm going to lead, don't worry, I'm going to lead you through it a little bit further. I just wanted to repeat it so it gets ingrained in your mind. So take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, let go of any stress, any energies that do not belong to you. This is all you have to do, my friend, is just say what you want. Let go, let go. Take another deep breath in through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Let go. Let go of stress. Let go of worry. Let go of fear. Let go of what you no longer need. And feel your body relax. Feel your head relax. Feel your neck relax. Feel your shoulders relax. Feel your arms relax. Feel your hands relax. Feel your chest relax. Feel your stomach relax. Feel your hips relax. Feel your thighs relax. Feel your legs relax. Feel your feet relax. Take a deep breath in. Exhale through your mouth. And once more, feel your entire body relax. Relax. And repeat after me. I am one with all that is. 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 Now, when you're doing this on your own, just want to be sure that you're as deeply relaxed as possible. So right now, in this moment, I want you to do a self-assessment. And on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most relaxed you've ever felt, just note to yourself, how relaxed do you feel? Do you feel like you're almost asleep? That would be about a 9 or a 10. Do you feel really relaxed but still present? That would be about 7 or 8. Are you still trying to deepen your relaxation? You might be at a 5. Do you find your mind all over the place? You might be at a 2 or 3. All right, so Let's repeat it again, and you do another check-in with your level of relaxation, right? So once more, say, I am one with all that is. 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 And when you say these words, you want to say it with intention, not just say, I'm one with all that is, I'm one with all that is, I'm one, right? So you want to say it with intention. Like if you want to slow it down, you can. So let's try that. Take a breath in and exhale and repeat with intention. I am one with all that is. 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 So again, if you're feeling nice and relaxed, now check in with yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. How relaxed do you feel? Okay, just take note of it. And as long as you feel around an 8, right, an 8 level of relaxation, then you can move forward with what I'm about to lead you in now. Okay, but if you're doing this right now and you don't feel that relaxed, that's okay. Come back and revisit this. So now, as long as you feel nice and relaxed, I'd like you to once again close your eyes if you've opened them for a moment and just focus inward. And now I want you to imagine that you're expanding your energy field really wide, right? Just using the power of your intention. And now for about a minute, I'm kind of speeding up this process that I usually do with people that can take up to 2 hours, maybe 3. But I want you to pay attention to whatever you feel emotionally or physically in terms of energy, like coolness or tingles or pressure on the body. Notice anything you might hear, like words that come into your mind, or maybe externally some sound that shouldn't be in your space. Notice what you see in your mind's eye. Do you get a vision of something? Do you see colors or shapes or symbols? Notice what you just know, what just comes into your awareness, right? You just suddenly something lands in your mind, or maybe even something that you taste all of a sudden, or that you smell that shouldn't be in your space. Just notice anything. That's all you're doing now, okay? I'm going to give you a minute or so. So with that awareness, again, affirm for a little bit once more. I am one with all that is. 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 And now you've expanded your energy field. And just be present, just be aware. There's no effort in this. There's no trying or reaching for anything. You're just going to allow whatever happens to happen. That's it. If you feel your mind wandering, that's okay. Just come back to the present moment. If you feel yourself not being relaxed anymore, getting agitated, you can just repeat, I am one with all that is to yourself until you're relaxed again. Remember, all this required is that for you, you are in a state of relaxation. That's it. Now, because we're opening up the doorway to the other side and inviting any loved ones that want to connect with us to come forward. So now as you expand your energy field and you invite them in, you can ask for someone specific. Just don't be surprised if somebody else comes through. Just be open to whoever shows up. And now just notice whatever you notice. Just going to give you a bit of time to have your experience. Please understand that your loved ones may be simply doing their best to merge with your energy, and they don't want to come in too strong, not usually. They don't want you to be scared. So be patient and trust whatever you experience. What you're doing, if this is your first time, is what you're doing is establishing a connection. And it takes time to develop. It takes time to solidify. And it certainly takes time to become strong, to become immovable, to become this solid foundation upon which you can build your continuing relationship. So if this is your first time, just be patient. Come back to this video again and practice. And if you want, you can just turn off the sound and just stay in that state of connecting. Take a breath in. And if you are in agreement with this, expand your energy field wider. See if you can feel on a broader level, on a deeper level. You might not. It's okay. Whatever you're experiencing right now is perfect for you. I promise you, if you do this again, it's going to be different because you will be different. And they are learning. So they are learning from this experience itself. But I want you to notice whatever you experience. If you're working with me, I would be dialoguing with you, and I would be recording for you what your experiences are. So if you're doing it for yourself, then what you want to do is after this is write down, maybe keep a journal, and write down what you experienced, even if it seems like it doesn't make any sense. Right? So maybe you write down, well, all I kept seeing was like water. Like I don't know what that means. Or I saw the color blue like all over the place, or I saw lines like in that kept changing. What you just describe whatever it is that you experience. That's it. When you do that, when you just write down, keep track of what you experience with the other side, that gives them confirmation that, oh, she did see that, or she did hear me, or he did feel the pressure on that side of the body, okay? So this is important that you write it down. You might think like, well, don't they know that? No, they don't know that. No, they don't know that. They don't necessarily, even if you think it, they don't necessarily know that you thought that, okay? So you want to actually write it down to give them that feedback so that they know, well, she felt that, or she didn't feel that, or he didn't see that. Okay, I know I need to try a different way or come in stronger, okay? So you want to give them feedback, and you want to do it again without any expectation about what's going to happen or not happen. Never expect it to be the same. It cannot be the same because, again, you're never the same. Literally, you're never the same from moment to moment. How can you be the same the next time you do this? Okay. I'm kind of giving you a crash course in our method. Okay. If I worked with you privately, we could really dig deep into this, and Alan helps your loved one on the other side really fine-tune it. But I'm just giving you kind of the Cliff Notes version, if you will, so that hopefully you can run with this. Okay, that's what we want for you. We want to teach as many people as possible to do this we just know that most people are going to need support beyond this. But if you don't, then great. We're so happy. We would like you to run with it. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to move to the next phase. Right. And this level, I want you to think about who you do want to connect with. Like some people do our method because they're trying to connect with a spirit guide, in which case, of course, they don't know what the spirit guide looks like necessarily. And that's okay, because they'll still get an impression of the spirit guide, like maybe as a figure that they see from behind, or they just feel the presence. But if it's a loved one, you're going to have an image of them in your mind. Okay, it's your way of calling out to them. And you're going to set a scene where you're going to connect with that loved one. Okay. And again, I can't do this fully with you as a group, but we're going to help you get the idea of it so you can practice on your own. So now I want you to repeat the affirmation again, because you may be not as relaxed as you were a minute ago. So we're going to take you back in that zone. This is what you're going to do when you need to go to this level, is say, all right, I'm going to repeat that affirmation. So repeat it after me. I am one with all that is. 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 And once again, you want to be sure you're at that level 8 or 9, ideally. I am one with all that is. I am one with all that is. Now in this stage, third stage, you're going to imagine a scene where you're going to meet your loved one. It's like you're creating like your own movie, except that you're in the movie. You're not watching the movie, you're in the movie. So maybe it's a special place that you would sit together and talk. Maybe it's just at your kitchen table. Maybe it's outdoors someplace because you'd always go for a walk. Just choose a place that you're going to be with them, right? And the key here is that you want to be in that place. You don't want to be watching yourself in that place with them. You want to be there. You're not watching a movie, you're in the movie. But in the beginning, you're kind of creating the scene. Okay. Now, you may be saying to me, well, Pam, but I'm just making this up. I'm just fantasizing it. And technically, you'd be correct. You are making it up. But here's the deal. You need to create the scene, because otherwise they would have to do that and send it to you. And that takes a lot of work and energy on their part to do. Doesn't mean they can't do it, but it takes a lot more. Can you understand that? So by you imagining the scene, and especially if it's a scene that you are familiar with, right? Like it's your kitchen table, because you know what that looks like. And you can imagine yourself sitting at the kitchen table with them. That makes it easy for you. But also, they remember the kitchen table too. So you imagining it allows you to go into that space, and it's in your imagination that you meet them anyway. So it is not, the place isn't real. It is a real place. You are visiting with them. What is going to happen is that they can step into that scene, be at the kitchen table with you, and then things happen. Like you're not scripting it at that point. It's like ad lib, so to speak, right? You're setting the scene, but then you're feeling yourself there, and you're seeing them there as real as you can make it, or feeling them. You don't have to see them, all right? Like clairvoyantly. You can just feel them there and know that they're there. That's it. And feel yourself there. Like you can feel the energy in the room, or feel if you're sitting on a chair, what does it feel like under your butt, right? Or how does it feel if your arms are on the chair? How does the furniture feel? You bring all your senses as much as you can to the scene. And then your intention is to see them there with you and see what happens. See if they start talking to you. See if they take you someplace else entirely. Like you could start off at the kitchen table and next thing you know, you're standing on the beach somewhere. If anything happens beyond what you imagine, I promise you, that is them taking over. Because you at that point are not planning it. You at that point are not imagining the beach or imagining them saying something that you hear them saying or feel that they're saying, okay? Because your physical mind doesn't make this up. It will only do it if you deliberately make it happen, right? You deliberately say, okay, I'm going to make my husband say something, or I'm going to go to the beach in my mind. Your physical mind doesn't do that. Your physical mind only observes reality. It perceives what's happening, but it doesn't imagine things unless we do it deliberately, consciously, on purpose. This, my friend, you need to understand, because this is why imagination is the between place where we meet the other side. You can't meet them in this reality. You can't fully go to the other side. You meet them in your mind, in your imagination, and that's a real space. It's the merging of spirit and the physical. Okay? So now, if you understand that, I want you to, if you've chosen your place, okay, we're going to affirm for a little bit again, and then you're going to just go to your special place with your loved one. I'll be guiding you in that, and then I'll be quiet for a bit. Normally, if I'm working with you one-on-one, I do this twice with you. I guide you in this twice, and I hold the space for you for 15 minutes both times. This is why the session is so long. But I can't do that right now with you folks, so I'm going to hold the space for you for a couple of minutes. But I know you can come back and do this on your own because I'm giving you the framework. Okay, I'm giving you the structure of this. All right, we're going to affirm once more. So take a breath in. And on the exhale, relax, relax. And once again, affirm, I am one with all that is. 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 Now, if you're doing this on your own again, remember you want to get really relaxed. So at this point, you just continue. But I'm going to continue and assume that you're at a level 8 or deeper. So at this point, you're going to do your best to imagine in your mind or feel yourself there in your special place with your loved one. See it as if it's 3D. Make it as real as you can. That's why it's helpful if it's a place you remember. So be there fully. See your loved one there. If it's a guide you're trying to connect with, just feel their presence. Just feel them there. Imagine them, if you can, sitting there with you. Don't put words in their mouth. Just be present with them. And look around you in the space if you can see it. If you want to say something to them in your mind, go ahead and say it. But again, you're not putting words in their mouth. Sometimes they just want to share their love with us. Just be in this scene. If it changes, great. If it doesn't, great. It doesn't matter. This is your chance to speak heart to heart and soul to soul. It does help if you open your heart and you let yourself feel all that you feel for them. Don't let this just be a visual experience. Let it be multisensory, but especially emotional. Now, if you suddenly feel a wave of grief come over you, I want you to understand that this is actually their love that you're feeling, because unconditional love is so pure and so intense and powerful that it can move us so deeply that we cry. And if you're newly grieving, what's happening is you're misunderstanding what you're feeling and associating it with loss. But their love is so intense that it can make us cry. So just be with them in this space. If you're listening to this later, you can just turn off the sound and be with your loved one or your guide for as long as you want to. All right, my friends. So I'm going to have to bring you back from this. But as I said, I'd like you to practice this on your own, okay, as often as you want to. And I'll make a point of writing in the description the process, like basic steps for you. Okay. There's also on our channel the Bridge to Heaven playlist masterclass that I encourage you to go watch. Okay, that was a training we did on our Facebook group. This was years ago, and that will help you too. Okay, but the key is that this journey is such a remarkable one that I don't see how anybody can do this without support. and community, being part of a community of other people that are openly sharing their own journey, talking about their triumphs and challenges. And, because you're not going to find much support from the people in your life. Most of you won't anyway. I mean, I do, but that's because I've been in this field for 38 years. So, everybody I know knows what I do, including my son, who's a channel and a medium, and his girlfriend, who's an incredible medium in their own right. So, and even my relatives who don't believe, they just tolerate me. So, but I don't talk to them so much. But I have a lot of support, but you probably don't. So, if you really want to pursue this, then you need to find support. There's just no way around it. So, if not with us, then reach out, to other people that you might find. I don't think it's enough to be part of Facebook groups, quite honestly, or because the groups that I've been in, that I've seen, especially grief groups, those are the worst groups. Those people are just still wallowing in their grief, and people join every day and they're newly grieving, and it's very toxic to be around all that sadness and the talk of loss and people saying how they're so sad and unhappy, that energy is just going to make it worse for you. It's not cathartic, quite the opposite. So you actually want to avoid grief groups. You just really want to avoid it. Trust me, it will actually demoralize you. How many people have I seen in those groups saying, God, I'm going to have to get out of here, this is making my grief worse. So you don't want to be around people who are sad. You want to be around people who are actually breaking through their grief and making new connections. And I don't really know of many other groups out there. You are welcome to join our school community that we have now on school called Channeling the Afterlife. Although I'll be right up front with you, I may be changing the name of that group. So if I do change it, I'll change the description. But right now it's here in the description box. But that's our right now free group, but that may be changing completely. Our Be Your Own Medium group at some point will be opening up another level to it, which is be more of an entry level, which will allow people to join it for as little about $9 a month. But right now, to get into our Be Your Own Medium program, you'd have to commit to $39 a month. You get a lot more for joining for a year than for a month. But just go to our school communities, whichever one resonates with you, and we'll help you. We are not so much on Facebook anymore. I still have group there, but I don't hardly visit it. I do not recommend, again, that you just join every Facebook group out there. They are, I just know, I'm just not going to tell you everything because you would freak out so much you wouldn't go to Facebook anymore. But it's very toxic there, and you're not safe there. Your information is not safe there. That I know for sure. School, you're completely safe there because I pay for that group. Okay, so your private information is not in jeopardy. Facebook, even YouTube is a little, YouTube not so much, but Instagram, Facebook, be very, very careful. Your information is being shared. You are not private there, no matter what you think. So that's why I'm kind of pulled back from Facebook and why I'm more here on YouTube streaming to you. And I will be probably live streaming into my school communities. So if you like this and you want more, then join us on school. That is completely safe, and because I control it, and therefore I can make sure that you are going to be not only safe and protected, but you have among people that are completely in your corner, that love and support you, and we make sure that you get help you need, whether it's not from me directly, but from other people that are very happy to encourage you and support you. That's really important, right? Yep, that's right, Danny. Says our school communities are safe, kind, and super supportive. Absolutely. So You're welcome you to join us there. If not, okay, now you got this method, okay? So go practice it. Let me know in the comments how it went for you. It's about practice. If you want more help doing this, I also have a link for my sessions, my Rich Devon sessions. It's here. I only do a very limited number of them now, but I do still do them. So you're welcome to sign up for that if you want to do that. And of course, as I said, you can go look into IADC and LHC. Just know that the limitations of both. And oh my God, IADC is very expensive. So I don't know. I don't really feel comfortable recommending that to people. But if you rather go see a therapist and who will not teach you how to do this yourself and may or may not believe that you're actually communicating with someone in spirit, then go for it. But I just cannot recommend that. And with Loving Heart Connections, I don't know anybody that I recommend that's practicing that anymore. Okay, that's just how it is. All right, so that's it for now. We went really long today. Let us know what you think. Comment on this video, please. Comment on the video. We really need your support to get the word out about this topic because, as I said, the various platform algorithms kind of do not want us to go down this road. That's okay. I knew it wasn't going to be a topic that the masses were going to welcome, and we're not here for the masses. We're here for you watching this who are interested in this, but we do need your support, okay? It does really make a difference. Like, subscribe, share, do whatever you can. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. All right, bye-bye.